We are back, locked and loaded for the final hour of the Info Warrior with Jason Bermas. We're going to continue to take your calls and hit up the latest news. But we are joined riding shotgun with us by Mark Dice, who is a major part in my upcoming film, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. He is one of the three main interviews, along with G. Edward Griffin and Peter Dale Scott. How are you, Mark?
Would give you the typical I'm doing okay, but the slavery at my day job and the New World Order is really getting me down. And when that happens, I get creative and I start ramping up the activism. So I'm just brainstorming with some new ideas. I got some things in the works. I'm going to see if I can pull them off. I don't know. But I'm frustrated, as I'm sure a lot of us are, out there. I don't think it's smooth sailing for a lot of us.
Well, I will agree with you there. It is definitely not smooth sailing. And when we have Representative Ron Paul in front of Congress telling everybody that the real numbers are over 20% 20% unemployment, when we have weekly bank closures, and we now have the internal documents of Citigroup where they plainly state that you will not be able to withdraw your money for 7 days, and then we go back to these 2005 plutonomy documents that are in Michael Moore's film Capitalism, where they admit plutonomies, and we're in one, are economies powered by the wealthy, and it is based on the model where the top 1% owns the net worth of all of the rest of 99% put together, as well as riding a gravy train. What are we to expect? When they put out internal documents stating that the rich will continue to get richer and the gap of divide between the wealthy and the poor will get more extensive, what do we expect? When we don't hold our public officials' feet to the fire and we allow bailout after bailout after bailout after bailout, what do we expect, Mark?
It's bad news, and I know I'm kind of in my own little world out here in Southern California. I know you have audience all over the country, maybe even all over the world, but out here, out of me and all of my crew, there's really, I hang out with a lot of people, multiple ages, but anybody that's under the age of 32, 33, I really know a very small handful of people that own a condo or a home, and these are people, one of them's an engineer. He's actually been unemployed now for a year, and he's getting worried, but he was maybe making $130,000 a year as a computer engineer. Another guy is pretty well off, probably owns a $500,000 house. He's 30 years old. But, I'll tell you, man, Jason, we're probably about the same age. I'm 32 now. Mm-hmm. And it's very frustrating, people in our generation and younger, because I look at the path that we're going down, and maybe it's just Southern California, but I don't see very many people ever being able to own a house, or just owning a house in some really dumpy neighborhood full of a lot of illegal aliens, and just kind of the neighborhoods that that you're used to, you can't afford, or that our parents raised us in. It's very frustrating, and I don't know if it's all over the country. If Austin's a really wealthy city, but San Diego, there's multiple cities out here. You got the rich areas, you got some of the coastal areas, but a lot of the stuff is just normal middle class. And even with the so-called housing collapse, houses are still $500,000. And I mean, just imagine what you got to put 20% down to get that. So you're mortgaging, $400,000. So your mortgage with property taxes is going to be like $4,000 a month. I mean, it's insane.
It is insane, and it is set up so that our generation will not save money. We will always be indentured servants to the banksters out there. They love it. They're cackling at us as they're emptying cities in places like Detroit and all over the country. And I want to come back on the other side and talk about our generation. Because amongst our generation, Mark, of the 30-somethings, the 20-somethings, even the late teenagers that are in college, I would be bold enough to say, forget about 20%, forget about even 30%. Our unemployment rate is somewhere around 40%. We'll be back after this. It's the Info Warrior with Jason Bermas. We are back. It's the Info Warrior with Jason Bermas. We are on the line with Mark Dice. And before the break, I was talking about my generation, our job security, our future. And I see, Mark, a lot of people who have kind of bought into the college industrial complex. They're willing to go to school until they're 24, 25, 26, sometimes even later. They're not becoming lawyers. They're not becoming doctors. They're looking at like mass comm degrees and things like that. And they feel it's okay that after they're done with their education, that they can live with their parents. And this kind of mentality, I think, has gotten our generation into more trouble than we will even know in the next 5 to 10 years.
When my parents were our age, when my dad was my age, I think he was married and owned a house and had 2 kids. And so the ability to do that, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad, blue-collar guy, lived in a nice neighborhood, took a vacation every year, saw the country. And it's getting to be a lot more difficult because, my dad talks about going to a movie cost him a quarter, and thanks to the Federal Reserve and the hyperinflation over the last 30, 40 years, his 25-cent movie now costs us $10. Mm-hmm. And if that's any indication of what's going to happen in another 10 or 20 years, that we are becoming slaves. And that's why I'm so pissed. That's why I just channel my energy into, just trying to jam up as much of this machine as we can. To try to get us collectively to resist this so that we can live a normal life and not just be slaves. And I know people are kind of at a loss, and if we just continue down the path, if we shout these schools down, if we just continue to educate people one person at a time, maybe we can reverse this process, but it's getting very frustrating for a lot of us. And I know, and some people think that I just make a lot of money selling books. I have a normal job. I work 50 hours a week. I'm a slave just like the rest of us. I just do my books just to try to get the word out, and it's a passion, and it's just something that I can't stop doing. But I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I live paycheck to paycheck, and I do live in one of those neighborhoods that you talked about here in Texas that is full of illegals. Until you come and live in a place like Austin, Texas, where because of the complexion of my skin, because I'm a little darker, people sometimes immediately start talking Spanish to me. The woman that cuts my hair speaks no English, okay? I go, I'm serious. I go, uno and dos, this much on top. And that's the world I live in. I was out mowing my lawn for the first time when I moved out to Texas, probably 8-9 months ago. And my neighbor came across the street, seems like a nice guy. I only talked to him a couple times. And he keeps telling me how I can borrow his huihuaca. And I'm like, man, I have no idea what you're trying to tell me. And he's like, well, you know Espanol? And I'm like, no, I'm not Spanish. I just look a little dark. And he keeps trying to tell me I can borrow his weed whacker. Now, I'm glad that I live in a community where my neighbor is offering me help and assistance and a weed whacker, but I'm a little disappointed that I also live in a community where it's going to be very difficult for me to communicate with my neighbors just based on a language barrier, Mark.
Yeah, it's very sad when, and again, we know this. I mean, I guess sometimes we talk about things as if it's common knowledge to everyone, but I know that your audience is growing more every day, and people are at different levels of their understanding. But so this is, a lot of people know this. Some of the new people are starting to maybe figure this out, but this is all part of the design. That's why they leave the borders open, so that we have the illegals flooding in. That's to promote the North American Union, to just continue the globalization so they can have their Amero and united with the one world currency, which now the IMF chief has announced a few days ago that he wants to have, and he joined the chorus of other world leaders.
Just before we're about to have another G20, too, Mark. You see how they position themselves? They put out the info slightly before a conference, and then this will be, that won't be the main focus of the conference, this new reserve currency, but it will be the main goal of the conference. It will be the behind-the-scenes motor workings of what this institution is there for, and they're just kind of getting you ready for it now. As the IMF chief suggests, look at new reserve currency. The chief of the IMF said Friday that the organization should reorientate itself to better detect systematic risk to the global economy and quickly step it up with emergency loans when financial crises emerge. And we know Since the last G20 in April of last year, they have, instead of giving out dollars, they're giving out SDR units, special drawing rights units, and it looks like they're trying to take that special drawing rights unit and solidify it into a physical currency, Mark.
Well, as you know, the president of Russia, it was either the G8 or the G20 meeting last year, brought out a sample coin of the new one world currency. And, you know, I want to back up a point about, you were talking about City Financial not allowing people to withdraw their money for a week and this and that. So it's a good idea. A couple points on that. It's a good idea. I suggest everybody have a few $100s, depending on what your income is, maybe 1,000 or more, of cash in 20s in small denominations, and just keep it in your safe, stash it somewhere. Because if there is a run on the bank, or if there is a cyber attack, or even if it's a real cyber attack or a false flag attack, just imagine the madness that's going to occur if ATMs and banks and all electronic forms of